All right, time for fans forum. Bing, bing, bing. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so here's a good one. He says, this is from Kyle JF. Do you think there is a chance San Diego will pick up Trevor Bauer?
Don't have any more budget space, even though you could get him at the baseball minimum. I don't think they have any interest in taking on somebody so toxic. There's just such ill will in baseball being directed at this guy with his lifestyle choices. There has been no information at all, and we're just a couple of weeks out from spring training, Cactus League Grapefruit Circuit. No information at all that anybody's contacted him and offered him a contract to come pitch for them. Because whoever that owner is then has to answer the questions. Why are you bringing this person based on what this person did? Even if it was never arrested or never indicted, it's still out there. Why would you deal with the guy? Maybe Trevor Bauer has to go to Korea. Maybe Trevor Bauer has to go to Japan and pitch to regain his credibility. That kind of goes against what I'd said weeks ago, that I thought the Dodgers should have brought him back with a structure of restrictions and a structure of apologies and a structure of him giving money to charity. But that did not happen. I'll be intrigued because once the Dodgers get to Arizona on Camelback Ranch, their management people are going to have to answer some questions about how they came to this decision and why. So I don't think Trevor Bauer is going to be a Padre ever. And at this point in time, I wonder if anybody else is going to touch him because he's kind of radioactive.
Yeah, well, wait till we get into spring training, the early part of the season, when other pitchers have serious injuries and are out for the year. And then some of these teams will have to make some desperate choices.
But John, how do you, as a general manager, explain to me or all these people on our live stream who are season ticket holders, how do you rationalize you bringing him to this team?
I mean, you just have to, it would be a terrible situation to defend. I mean, it's impossible to defend.
Well, then you're the general manager. Why did you make that decision? Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think there's going to be some team that's going to take a roll of the dice with this guy because it's so cheap and they're going to have a desperate need for pitching. And it's definitely not going to be the Padres.
Okay, we move on. Next question. John and I disagree for sure.
Okay, so this is from David Andrews. He says, Lee, could you get Bill Werndl on your show?
We would like to. Philly Billy is outside of Philadelphia, does a 1-hour interview show every day on a small station. I talk to him all the time, but you have to understand this. Philly Billy's life stopped in 1987. Technology. He's going to get upset that I told this story. Philly Billy does not have a laptop, does not use computers, and does not use email. The only way I talk to him is by virtue of this when we call and say hi to each other. So he's a little bit behind the power curve in technology.
Okay.
But he's having fun. He's just a great guy. He's one of the most unique guys that I ever met, and that's why I recommended they bring him out here, and he stayed here and had a great run with Steve Hartman as part of the Loose Cannons on 690 and 1090. But he probably won't say this, but he probably in his family room has a black and white TV rather than a color TV because his technology, I think, stopped in 1987.
Right. He's got the rotary dial. I mean, I mean, Philly Billy is great. I'd love to get him on. We need to send him a computer, get him in on a Zoom call and bring him into the podcast. It'd be a lot of fun.
I asked him, what do you think about Zoom? He thought I was talking about some type of hot chocolate. A little bit behind the power curve. On we go.
On we go. So let's go here. And we've got some YouTube comments. And here's one right here. And this is from Fat Albert. He says, I watched a couple of the Bengals games late this season, and I think Burrow is a genuine star. He sent Tom and the Bucs packing after spotting them 24 points.
Well, Joe Burrow, if they can keep him healthy, and he's taken an enormous amount of sacks in 3 years, and he did have a major knee injury. Joe Burrow is just a really smart dude. I mean, his ability to process information at the line of scrimmage and what we call pre-snap reads is phenomenal. And because the Bengals were bad for so long, John, they stockpiled a lot of draft picks. And I'm not a fan of Mike Brown, the owner, the son of the iconic Paul Brown, because I think he's been a poor football owner, a cheap owner. But he's got some front office people there that have done a really good job constructing the roster. That being said, when you're drafting as high as they're drafting, you should be able to get marquee blue chips. Now, the question is, with Joe Burrow's contract coming up, how much bank is it going to take to get him to stay and not go on the open market as Mike Brown, who's raking in beaucoup bucks? Mike Brown going to be willing to pay Joe Burrow $40 million per year as the star quarterback in the league. So that story's still to be told, but they're the real deal. And this game's Sunday. Joe Cool versus Do Everything Mahomes. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend for these two championship series. But I saw a clip of the Rich Eisen show, and they asked, I guess, one of the family members, like, when did you know that Joe Burrow had the it factor? And they said when he was 8 years old, playing this first time playing organized football, he was a quarterback. And as an 8-year-old, he called an audible on the line and that led his little team down for a big, like 75-yard, play for a touchdown.
Well, Joe Burrow's dad, longtime college football coach, defensive coordinator, my alma mater, Ohio University, worked for Frank Solich for years.
Hey.
And when Frank retired, Joe's dad elected to retire too. He grew up in a football structured environment in Appalachia. And the best thing about Joe Burrow is the person. If you remember, or maybe you didn't see it, when he accepted the Heisman Trophy, he talked about growing up in Appalachia. Ohio University is in a small town southeast of Columbus near the West Virginia border. Poverty. Poverty capital of America, Appalachia is. And he talked about the food bank, and he was donating, or was going to donate, a huge amount of his signing bonus money to the Athens County Food Bank, which services all these poor people in like 5 counties in Appalachia. And they wound up raising over $7 million like within 2 weeks' time, because suddenly everybody was donating to the Athens County Food Bank. And this kid has gone home in the off season, and he's made donations to Athens High School, where he played and starred. His family still lives there at the border of Appalachia. He's done so many community things. He's just, as you say, Joe Cool.
Yeah, I mean, how many great quarterbacks have come out of that region of America?
Well, you got Appalachia, and you got Western Pennsylvania, which is really the capital of great quarterbacks. Dan Marino to Joe Montana, and a whole pile of other people in between.
Yeah, really interesting. So I'm loving everything about Joe Burrow. I mean, he's a great guy to root for.
Joe Cool.
All right, let's move on. We got a couple more comments from the YouTube channel. This is from T Duck. He said, simple. Chargers should trade Herbert for a 3rd-round draft choice. Try again. Rivers was a bust too.
Boy, there's no accounting for bad taste, is there? T Duck, where are you calling from? I guess we're allowed. You're allowed to watch live stream out there in left field. What do you mean Philip Rivers was a bust? The organization did not do the job around him, but Philip Rivers might be a Hall of Famer. And trade Justin Herbert? No. We may just take your computer out of left field, not let you do that. But Justin Herbert's a superstar. And as John and I alluded to right at the beginning of our podcast, we're going through a changing of the guard. I mean, the 4 quarterbacks that are playing right this weekend, that's the future. And Justin Herbert is part of that future. So no, there's nothing wrong with Justin Herbert. It's just what's not around him and what the coach didn't get done, and the injury factors, just a lot of things that are all interrelated as to why the Chargers are not playing. You're disappointed. I'm disappointed, but there's next year.
It's really hard to be a Charger fan.
Yeah.
I mean, for now and going back in history, there's been so much frustration. But yeah, Herbert, you got to build around the guy. I mean, he's a star. So we got one more on the YouTube comments here for you, Lee. And this is from Sam McBride. And this is in comments to the whole Robo Umps idea, with the calling the balls and strikes. He says, I've been fed up with MLB umpires for years and years. I'm willing to try something new. They can always switch back to the old way if it doesn't work.
Well, you are correct. Home plate just keeps moving from umpire to umpire. It keeps moving from the 1st inning to the 3rd inning to the 7th inning. I don't know why baseball can't do a better job in terms of recruiting umpires and teaching them the strike zone. Now, it's complicated because you got guys like you, Darvish, that are throwing 7 different pitches from 5 different arm slots. And you got guys that are throwing 101 mile an hour gas with balls that dip and move. I think calling balls and strikes really hard. I don't know if the computerized Robo Ump, the ABS system, automated ball strikes, is the answer. Maybe the ABS can be like instant replay, that the manager, Bob Melvin, has 3 challenges in his pocket. And I'll guarantee you, if the bases are loaded and there's a bad call at home plate, I'm invoking the challenge, use ABS to see whether that was a ball or strike. But do you want to remove the human element I think they need to improve the human element behind home plate. But they're going to try it in AAA. It worked in Class A, but that's Class A where I think it's a lot easier to determine balls and strikes. You're talking about wicked heat and gas and stuff that these guys bring when they throw it. I think it's a very hard game to umpire. But they got to do a better job with the umpires. It can't be any more, quote, Angel Hernandez's of the world maintaining their job. So I would use it only for challenges if we get to Major League Baseball. But I think it's coming. Bud Black told me 2 years ago at Christmas. I said, "What's going to happen with it?" He says, "It's going to be here." Now, is it going to be here full force, or is it going to be here just for unique challenges? What would you do? You're a baseball fan. I saw you stand up behind home plate and shake your Padre cap at Angel Hernandez on a couple of moving balls and strikes calls.
Well, remember the World Series going back about 20 years ago, and remember Livan Hernandez? And I mean, he was throwing balls that were like 18 inches off the plate, and then he was getting strike calls, and it was just ridiculous. So some of these umpires are just wackadoodle. So I love this idea of computerizing it and removing all of this subjectivity and making it objective. So the question is how is Major League Baseball going to do it? You know, the idea of a challenge, you know, they got the red flag like they do in the NFL, that could work. But, you know, even going the full distance and having the technology that calls every pitch a ball or a strike, I'm very open to that. And I know we, as Padre fans, as baseball fans in general, we get so frustrated with the inconsistency. And I think this is something they should fix.
Well, for the baseball fans, where baseball got this idea, this weekend on the Pro Tennis Tour, the Australian Open, they're going to the semifinals and the finals. If you watch just one match, watch a couple of sets, you will see line calls that are decided by video replay. Was it on the line? They have the technology. Was it on the line? Did it touch the line? And that's the decision that is made when they use those challenges. That's where baseball got this idea from for ABS. But again, you're talking about pitchers with unbelievable velocity and balls that bite and jump, etc. So only time will tell. We'll see what AAA baseball is like. This is amongst the many rule changes that we talked about last week that Rob Manfred is imposing.